proof, which means that you start and you finish. Um, I'm going to have you begin with your case in chief. You can go ahead and tell me what you would like me to know about what happened. However, when it comes to your witnesses, you're going to have to ask who, what, when, where, why type questions to get your witnesses' testimony in. They cannot just start talking. They have to respond to questions. If you hear the word objection at any time, that means that the attorney has an objection to something that you're saying and believes that it is inappropriate or should not be heard by the court for some reason. If you hear the word objection, stop talking immediately, and then I will hear the reason for the objection, and then we'll move on. Whenever the attorney starts to present his side of the case, if you feel as if someone is saying something objectionable, you can say the word objection, and I will hear your legal basis for why you think I shouldn't hear the evidence. Objections are not because you disagree with what's being said. An objection is a legal reason that I should not be able to hear what the other side is saying. So just because they're lying, that is not a legal reason for me not to be able to hear what they are stating. If you hear the word again, objection, just stop talking. And again, the only way you can object is if there is some legal grounds that prevents the trier of fact from being able to hear the evidence. That being stated, counsel, I will get started. The only thing I will stop for is if I believe that someone's coming back in and they've been able to resolve their case, or if the other attorney comes back in, just so I can see how long he needs and give him another time to report back. But while I'm doing that, let me also ask position 4, Mrs. Smith, if you can unmute yourself, and then I only have a yes or no question for you. Yes or no, were you able to resolve your case?
No.
Okay, thank you. You can go back on mute. Thank you. Okay, so that being stated, Mrs. Coote, you are now your turn to present your evidence. You can begin. And I apologize. One last thing. I usually let everyone know what we're here for. So we are here today for this case. It's alleged family violence battery and simple battery harm. Mrs. Coote is alleging that on September 24th of 2023 at approximately 6:35 p.m. That Mr. Coote committed the crimes of family violence battery and simple battery by pushing Mrs. Coote in the face with his finger. And she had redness, and he caused physical harm to her by pushing her in the top of her head. And these are the allegations. So the only thing that I want to hear about is what occurred on September 24th on or around 6:35 p.m. that regarded pushing in the head area, in the face, and causing redness. That's what we're here for today. So you can go ahead and begin, Mrs. Coote.
Thank you, Your Honor. On September 24th, 2023, I went to pick up my daughter, Christina Coote, from Mr. Coote's home. We have a parenting agreement plan where we have to exchange our daughter, pick up, drop off. Sometimes he picks her up from my home, and I have to go pick her up from his home, or I take her to his home, and then he brings her back to my home. On that particular day, I went to pick up our daughter, Christina Coote. Did the judge go out? I'm sorry.
No, you can continue talking.
I'm sorry. I went to pick up our daughter, Christina Coote, from Mr. Coote's home. And upon arrival, he came down with her suitcase, and he demanded that I open my trunk. My trunk had stuff in it, so I had to get out of my car to let my seat back. I was driving my two-door car at the time, so I had to get out of my car to let the seat back, get the luggage to put in the back seat. At that point, Mr. Coote started cursing at me, calling me, I'm gonna spell it out because I don't like to use derogatory language, bitch, and telling me he would slap the shit out of me. And at that point, he just got very vulgar, irate, and was out of control. And so I started, he then started saying other things like, I killed my dad and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, no, I didn't do that. That would be your mother. She killed her father to get the money that, you guys to purchase this home that you're living in. And he just started, he was just outrageous, just cursing and telling me he would slap the shit out of me, and stuff like that. And then, there was other things said, but getting to the point to where I was in between my door and my car, and Mr. Coote took his hand and forcefully tried to push me down into my vehicle. Your Honor, prior to that, I had 2 neck surgeries and a back surgery. Mr. Coote was aware of the fact that I had these surgeries. And the reason being that he was aware is because
I don't need to hear about the
okay,
surgeries. That's getting off topic. So I just want to know what happened, not what he
okay,
should have known in his head. Just tell me what he did and what he said and what you said.
all right. Well, he pushed, he tried to forcefully push me down into my car. He put his hand on the top of my head and tried to push me down into my car. My body, because I've been injured, it, had a jerk reaction, and I kind of like popped up. And at that point, that's when he took his index finger and almost poked me in my eye and pushed me back. And when he did that, I got into my car, and that's when I called 911. And told them that, my ex-husband had just put his hands on me and I needed the police at his residence, and I gave him the address. My daughter was in the car, Christina Coote, and witnessed what my ex-husband did. And his wife was standing on the deck, and she was yelling at him, telling him, every time he would threaten to slap the SHIT out of me, she was yelling, "No, Omar, stop. No, don't. Omar, stop. No, oh." So that's pretty much what happened. The police was called. After I called the police, I called my sister. She told me to leave his property. So I did. I drove down to the bottom of the hill and waited on the police. Once the police got there, took our statement, and, they initially talked to Mr. Coote before.
Well, you can't necessarily tell me what they said or what they saw, but was there anything else you need to tell me about what he actually physically did to you or said during the incident?
That was pretty much it. He took his hand and forcefully pushed down, tried to forcefully push me into his car. I mean, into my car, into my car, and then took and, poked me almost on the side of my face, almost in my eye, pushing me back. But the forcefulness of him pushing me in the top of my head injured my neck. And I've submitted documentation to show where I went to the hospital after that, and then where I've had MRIs done of my neck to show, and my back, of the injuries that I've sustained.
Is there anything that you need to show me? I don't care about the injuries. Well, actually, I guess I do, because you're alleging family violence battery with visible injury. Are there any visuals of what happened, or is it just pain that you have? Was there any visible bruising to you?
You can't see my bulging discs inside of my body, Your Honor. And so
there was no visible bruising on your body?
No, there was no visible bruising on my body. I just have bulging discs in my neck and in my back, and the MRIs that I have.
So do you have any injuries other than the bulging disc from this incident?
No, Your Honor, just the bulging disc in my neck. And
have any evidence other that I don't need to see evidence of the injury, since it's not a visible injury, but do you have any other evidence of that you would like to show me that isn't about the injuries?
Well, I submitted evidence regarding, when Mr. Coote was cursing at me and saying the things that he was saying to me. I was telling, because his wife was up on the deck, and I was telling her that Mr.
What
Coote,
evidence do you have other than just your injuries? What other evidence do you have?
I just have evidence to prove what I'm saying and what was said.
But what evidence do you have other than just the medical bills? What other physical evidence do you have?
I submitted a TPO, a temporary protective order. I also submitted the police report of in question, September 24th. I've also submitted evidence. I think I submitted the warrant application. I submitted evidence of Mr. Coote having gone to therapy and therapists diagnosing him with depression. I've submitted evidence from my old attorney, notices of cease and desist.
Okay, so anything else relating to what happened on September 24th? Anything video, anything that relates to September 24th?
No, Your Honor, I don't have any video or anything like that. I just have the where I went to the hospital. I submitted that documentation.
Okay. All right, so counsel, I'm going to go ahead at this time and allow you to cross-examine her. You can begin your cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Coote, how are you, ma'am?
I'm doing okay.
Okay. Thanks again for agreeing to speak with me. You said that you submitted some exhibits. One was the warrant application that you took out. Is that right?
Yes,
You have that in front of you, ma'am?
I do.
Okay. In the application, you allege that Mr. Coote caused you bodily harm, correct?
Yes,
Okay. And and here you said that he did that by pushing you in the face with his finger.
I said that by pushing on the top of my head, and yes, pushing me in the face.
Okay. Well, so you wrote in your application that Mr. Coote pushed you on the face with your finger. However, you testified previously that he pushed you on the top of your head. Is that right?
I testified to both. He pushed me on the top of my head, and
Okay.
he also took his index finger and poked me, pushing me backwards.
Okay. All right. And according to you, when he pushed you with his index finger on the top of the head, was that what caused the bulging disc?
When he put his hand on top of my head and pushed down, tried to forcefully push me in the car, yes, that's what caused the bulging disc.
Okay. And then what about when he pushed you with his finger in the face? What did that do?
Well, I felt when he pushed me and pushed me backwards, that's a poke, but that's pretty much what it did. He put his hands on me by pushing me, poking me with his finger and pushing me backwards. That's also putting his hands on me.
Okay. When you took out the warrant, reading on, it says that Mr. Coote is your ex-husband, and that you swore to the court that the officer observed redness on you. Is that correct?
Well, if
Is that
the
what you wrote?
officer, if
Is
the
that what you wrote
officer,
in your application?
that's what the judge put in the application. Yes,
Is that what you told the judge?
I told the judge he poked me
Okay.
with his finger.
Okay. So did the judge make up the redness part, or did you tell him that?
I told him that he pushed me with his finger.
Okay.
He poked me with his finger.
So you never said that the officer observed redness, did you?
I didn't say that.
Okay.
I said he poked me with his finger.
So if someone wrote it here, would that be a lie, or is that?
I didn't see the side of my face to see if there was redness, but he poked me with his finger.
Okay.
And pushed me backwards.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, you also submitted a copy of the incident report. Is that
Yes,
right?
a copy of the police report.
Okay. All right. So in the report, you said that Mr. Coote pushed your head and poked your head in the face with his finger. Is that right?
I said Mr. Coote put his hand on top of my head, forcefully pushing me in the car, and he also took his index finger and almost poked me in the eye, pushing me back.
The officer that arrived on the scene, he spoke with you?
He initially spoke with Mr. Coote.
Okay. And he spoke with Mr. Coote as well, you said?
He spoke with Mr. Coote first.
Okay. And then who did he speak with second?
He came over to me second, I believe.
Okay. And did he also speak with Mr. Coote's current wife, Carrie?
He told me that he did.
Okay. Did he speak with your daughter, Christina?
Yes, he did.
Did he note in his report whether or not he observed any visible injuries?
The report said he did not observe any visible injuries, but you
Okay.
can't see bulging discs.
Okay.
But I did tell him that I had surgery, and Mr. Coote had forcefully pushed me the top of my head, trying to forcefully push me into my car.
Okay. Now, did you take pictures of your bulging disc?
I have evidence of my bulging disc. You have to take. Yes, I did MRIs. Those are pictures.
Okay. And do you have the photographs? Did you submit those?
I submitted the MRI documentation.
Okay. And those MRI documentation, did you submit the doctor's notes with it as well?
I believe I did. I submitted what they gave to me.
Okay. All right. Now, who's the name of the doctor?
Let's see. Let's see. JKMD. Let me spell this last name. COSTANTINI.
Okay, and in his notes, what does he say caused your bulging disc?
They didn't say what caused the bulging disc. I went and had the MRI because I went to my pain doctor and they have to schedule the MRIs.
Okay. Now you got your results back. Is the doctor here to testify to their findings?
No,
Okay.
I do not have the doctor here.
Did you you have your MRI? Did you take any photographs of your back or any of the redness that you alleged was present?
I didn't allege redness.
Okay.
And again, you can't see bulging disc from the visible eye. That's why MRIs have to be done. So they provided me with a CD of the imaging, but they write a report, and the report is what I provided to the courts.
Okay.
But I do have a CD which of the MRI, and that shows the imaging, but you have to know what you're looking at. That's why they provide a report.
Okay. And so how many times did you go to the MRI doctor, your spine doctor, after this incident?
Well, I went and had the MRIs done that showed that I had bulging discs from C3 down to T1 and L3445 in my back.
Okay.
And since then, I have been to my pain doctor.
Did you call the ambulance at the scene? Did you ask for an ambulance when the officer arrived?
No, I told them I was going to go to the hospital on my own.
Okay. So you have a bulging disc, yet you don't call the ambulance?
I did not know I had a bulging disc. That's why the MRI was done. I knew I was in excruciating pain, and that's why I went to the hospital to emergency. And
so at the time of the incident, you say that you were in excruciating pain, yet you didn't call for an ambulance?
No,
okay.
I went to the emergency.
Did you ask the officer for an ambulance?
No, I told the officer.
How long after?
Counsel, let her finish her answer. She can answer yes or no and finish her answer, but allow her to complete the answer if she's still answering, please.
Okay. Do you want me to re-ask it, Judge?
No, you can. Do you remember the question, Ms. Kute?
I told the officer that I would go to the hospital myself. I would drive myself to the hospital. I didn't want to leave my car there at the location that was near Mr. Coot.
So despite being in excruciating pain, you were able to drive your car away? Is that what your testimony is?
Yes.
Okay. And how long after the incident did you go to the doctor's office?
Immediately after talking to the police officer. After I was finished talking with the police officer.
You went to the emergency room?
Yes.
Okay.
DeKalb Emory.
How long were you married to Mr. Coot?
That's a tricky question. We got married in 2007. We got an initial divorce in 2006, but it was overturned, and then we got a divorce again in 2019. So that's what makes the question kind of tricky. So I was apparently still married to him after the divorce was overturned. People say they never heard of such, but that's what happened.
Okay.
So,
and you've known him roughly 15, 20 years. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. And how many times has he been convicted of domestic violence against you?
I did not file charges against Mr. Coot.
Okay. How many times has he been arrested for domestic violence against you?
Again, I called the police 4 times on Mr. Coot while we were married, but I did not file charges against him.
So the police have visited your residence 4 times while you were together?
For domestic, yes. And that was in 2008.
And not one of those times did they make an arrest?
I did not file charges.
Okay.
I asked them to have him to be removed from the property, and that's what they did. They had him removed from the property. He had to pack a bag of clothes and leave.
Okay, so September 24th, 2023, that would be the 5th time the police came out after your phone call for Mr. Coot without making an arrest. Is that correct? That'd be the 5th time?
Well, I asked that they arrest him that time, and I also filed this 5th time.
Gotcha.
That's the difference. Yeah.
And last thing, you said that you have a custody agreement. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And that custody agreement, you drop your daughter off when I guess Mr. Coot he gets visitation with your daughter twice, 2 weekends a month. Is that right?
2nd and 4th.
Okay. And you drop her off at his house. He picks. I'm sorry. You drop your daughter off at his house, he drops her back home with you at the end. Is that right?
That is correct. And there are times when it's vice versa, that he will come pick her up and take her to his house. And then I have to go to his house and pick her up to bring her home.
Gotcha. And when do those times occur?
It can recur at any time. If he calls and I'm sorry,
Decides.
I don't understand the question.
I mean, who decides to go against the parenting plan?
Well, it's really not going against the parenting plan as long as it's a pick up, drop off, and he just not always pick her up and bring her back.
Okay.
So
despite the fact that the parenting plan says that Mr. Coote is supposed to drop her off, you showed up at his house instead. Is that right?
no, that's not correct. Mr.
You
Coote
didn't show up at his house?
Mr. Coote had called to come pick our daughter up, and because he was in the area, he came and picked her up, and so I went to his house that Sunday. He picks her up on Friday. That Sunday, I go to his house to pick her up to bring her back home.
Even though the parenting plan says he's supposed to drop her off, correct?
It says that I can take her to his house and he can bring her back home to my house.
Thank you.
But if we decide to switch, that's okay.
All right. And who decided that day? You or Mr. Coote?
Mr. Coote decided to pick her up, so I had to go get her from his house.
Thank you. No further questions, Judge.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Kathy Coote, if you have your witness, you'll need to call your witness. You can get your daughter, you can call her to come in the room with you, or you can have her testify from a different device, but you can go get your daughter so that she can testify now. And how old is your daughter?
She's 15, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. So you can raise your right hand for me if you don't mind.
Sit down.
Okay. And can you raise your right hand for me? Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you can place your hand down, and you do understand that we are in a court hearing today, and that means that you have to tell the truth, even if you think that it's going to make either your mom or your dad upset. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you comfortable doing that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Are you comfortable testifying with your parents right there? Would you like to be able to talk to me without your parents around for a moment?
Yes, ma'am.
Which one? Do you want to just, are you okay with your parents being here? Or would you like to talk to me for a second without the parents?
I'm okay with my mom being here.
Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let your mom ask you some questions first. And mom, if you don't mind, I'll need to be able to see both of you at the same time.
Okay.
So perfect. And then I'll let your mom ask you some questions. And then also, let's see. And if you can just adjust it a little bit, Ms. Coote, because I can't see both of you all the way. I need to be able to see both of your faces, entire faces while I'm doing this. Okay, perfect. Or you can probably adjust the camera if it's easier for you so you don't have to be in an uncomfortable position. Carrie, Christina, your mom is going to ask you some questions. And I want you to answer them as truthfully as you can. And then the attorney is going to ask you some questions, and I want you to answer those questions, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and mom, what I need you to do is you cannot suggest the answer with a question. So for example, I cannot ask someone, was it raining whenever you left the house? Because that implies that it was raining. I can ask that person, what was the weather whenever you left the house? But I can't say, was it raining? Because that again suggests that that is the answer. I can't tell someone, did you see whenever the truck hit me? I can instead say, did you see anything whenever you walked out of your door that morning? You understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, perfect. So with that understanding in mind, you can go ahead and ask Christina some questions.
Okay. Christina, on September 24th, 2023, when I came to your father's house to pick you up, what did you observe?
I observed that my dad came outside with a fit of rage. He was in a fit of rage, and he threatened my mom by saying, I'm a beat your ass. And so my dad, he had grabbed my mother's head, and he tried to push it down into her car.
Did you observe your dad do anything else?
Yes, ma'am. He had used his index finger and tried to like poke my mom and her. Yeah, he tried to poke my mom in her eye.
Did you talk to the police officer and when they arrived?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you tell the police officer?
I told the police officer the exact same events that happened, which was my dad trying to forcefully push my mom's head into her vehicle. I also had told the police officer that my dad had also used his index finger to basically push my mom a little bit back.
Who else observed this?
My stepmother Carrie, she had came outside to the deck, and my baby sister was out on the deck also. She was crying. My baby sister was.
How old is your baby sister?
My baby sister is 2 years old.
Do you know why your dad tried to push your mom's head down and poke her with his finger?
Because my dad was in a fit of rage between a conversation me, my dad, and my mom had all together while we were on the phone.
And had your mom got to the house at the time that y'all had this conversation on the phone?
No, ma'am, but I remember that you were going to pick me up that day.
Did your mom, after talking to the police, where did you and your mom go?
After talking with the police, wait, what was the question?
After talking to the police, where did you and your mom go?
We went to the hospital.
Did you go to the hospital with your mom?
Yes, ma'am.
Was your mom in pain?
Yes, ma'am.
What did she say was hurting her?
Her back and her neck.
Did they examine your mom at the hospital?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you there when they examined her?
Yes, ma'am.
Did they give her anything to take?
Yes, ma'am.
What did they give your mom to take?
I believe it was pills to take.
Do you know what the pills were?
They were for to reduce the pain.
In 2021, did you and your mom go to Florida?
I can't recall going to Florida.
You don't recall going to Florida?
No.
Okay. Your Honor, that's all I have at this time. I can't. But I'd like
That's
to reserve.
Okay, so the attorney can go ahead and ask some questions at this time.
Thank you. Hi, Christina.
Hello.
All right, thanks for taking some time to answer some of our questions. Okay. Your mom, when you left your father's house, did you see her get into the car?
Yes, sir, I did.
Did you, when you got to the hospital, did you go straight to the hospital?
Yes, sir.
And did you see her get out of the car?
Yes, sir.
Did you have to help her out?
No, sir.
Oh, did any medical staff have to rush to the car to escort her out of the vehicle?
No, sir. We had walked on our own to the hospital.
Okay.
And inside of it.
All right. And so when you walked in, did someone put a wheelchair underneath of her?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How long?
Yes, sir. Sorry.
Okay. How long after you got inside did they give her a wheelchair?
I don't recall for how long. I just remember that she was in a wheelchair. She was placed in a wheelchair for a little bit of time.
After a while.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So not immediately. Okay. All right. So after that, did your mom have to wear a neck brace?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Now, did you, you obviously saw what happened. Did you observe any redness?
No, no, sir.
No redness. Okay. And now you said that when your mom and your father, when they were interacting, let's say, did this occur in front of the car or did this occur on the back porch?
So the whole cover, you mean when the incident happened?
Yeah. Was it in the back porch or was it next to the car?
It was, well, the conversation really started when me, my dad, and myself, we were on the phone together in my room. And so when my mom had come to pick me up, my dad, Carrie, and my baby sister was there also. But my dad, he went downstairs towards the car, my mom's vehicle.
Mhm.
And that's when the incident took place.
Where were you when that happened?
I was in the car.
Were you in the passenger seat?
Yes, sir. I was in front.
Oh, you were in the front when that happened? Okay. All right. Now, did anything occur on the back porch or all of this happened next to the car?
All of this happened next to the car.
Got it. Now I understand. Okay. All right. Now, let's see. You spoke with the officer?
Yes, sir.
You told him the same thing you told us today, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. No further questions. Thank you, Christina. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, so Christina, if you don't mind, if you can go back into another room in the house where you're not able to hear what's going on, and I'll let you know if I need to hear from you again tonight. Thank you for talking to us.
Yes, ma'am. And you're welcome.
Okay. Do you have any other witnesses, or was that all that you had?
You're asking me if I have any other witnesses?
Yes, ma'am.
On the report that I filed, I put Carrie Coop because she witnessed what happened.
Okay. All right. So I believe she's going to be called by the defense. So what we'll do then at this time, counsel, I'll go ahead and switch to you then. Mrs. Coot will call the other Mrs. Coot in, Miss Carrie Coot. Madam Clerk, can we let her in, please? Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Okay. State your full name for the record.
Carrie Bonita Coot.
Okay, so the attorney will ask you some questions first, and then Mrs. Kathy Coot may ask you some questions later. So counsel, you can go ahead and begin.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Coot, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
All right. Ms. Coot, how do you know Mr. Omar Coot?
He's my husband.
All right. How long have you been married?
Since December 2020.
Okay. And while you were married, have you ever called the police on him for domestic violence?
Never.
Have you ever taken out a restraining order on him?
Never.
And do you know him to be a violent person?
No.
All right. And to your knowledge, has he ever been arrested for any crime?
No.
Do you know Kathy Coot?
I know of her.
You know of her? And how do you know of her?
I just know that she is his ex-wife.
Okay. And on the day, I guess the afternoon, or evening rather, of September 24th, 2023, around 6 p.m., do you recall where you were?
I was on my back deck of my house.
Okay. And all right. And around 6 o'clock, were you carrying your youngest, I guess your infant child at the time?
I wasn't carrying her, but she was next to me. She was
Okay. Close. All right. And you were on your back porch. What did you observe?
I saw Kathy Coot pull up in her car.
Okay. And she pulled up the driveway and she parked in front of the house. What did she do?
She pulled up and was aligned with our back deck at the back of the house. She pulled up around and was aligned with our back deck.
All right. And when she parked her car, what happened next?
Omar came out with his daughter, Christina, holding her bags because she just stayed with us for the weekend, and they walked together down the stairs. We have some stairs leading from our back deck, and he walked her down to her mother's car, put her bags in the back of the car, and while he was doing that, Kathy had gotten out of the car and was standing at the driver's side with the door open, and so they began to argue, and a few minutes later she started to yell up to me. I was still on the deck, and she started to yell up to me that she knew Omar had secrets, and she knew his secrets, and that I should call her. And then he told her
In
to,
response,
sorry,
how did you respond to her?
I didn't say anything during this whole time, and I never said a word.
Is that because this behavior is not unusual?
No, it's because I was just I was surprised at what was happening, and no questions were asked of me. Nothing was directed. Like, she didn't ask me anything, so I didn't have to answer anything.
Understood. What happened next?
He asked her to get off of the property, and she continued yelling, and so he called the police, and she basically hung around until the police arrived.
Okay. What do you mean hung around? Did she just?
In her car, Christina was in the car, and they had the door closed, and they pretty much sat in the car
Did they stay in your driveway?
for about 10 minutes, and then they moved to we got kind of a really long driveway, and then after about 10 minutes, they moved to the bottom of it.
Gotcha. Okay. And when the officer, I guess, all right. So I guess at that point the officer arrived. Is that right? Okay. So prior to the officer arriving, did you observe any physical confrontation between the two?
No,
Was Omar Coot? Did he push Miss Kathy Coot
no,
with his finger?
no,
Did Kathy Coot? Did she push Omar Coot?
no,
Did you observe any visible injuries to Miss Kathy Coot?
no, I didn't.
Did you observe any redness?
No, I did not.
Did it appear to you that she had any difficulty walking after the verbal exchange?
No,
Okay. Did she have any trouble getting into her car?
no,
Getting out of her car?
no.
All right. And that's all, Your Honor. Thank you. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Coot, Ms. Kathy Coot, if you have any questions for Ms. Carrie Coot, you can ask those questions now.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Carrie.
Hello.
How long have you known Omar Coot?
Since known him since August 2016.
And you said you and Mr. Coot was married December 2022.
2020.
2020. Okay. So you've known him since 2016. Was Mr. Coot divorced?
Yeah. As far as I know, yes.
What year, as far as you're aware of, was Mr. Coot divorced?
I honestly don't know. I just know that when I met him, he was divorced. I don't know what year you and him were divorced. I just know that when I came along in 2016, you were divorced.
So you were not aware that he was married.
Okay, so
When you
Ms.
met.
Coot, we're not going to get into any of that
Okay.
information. I have four other hearings I'm going to have to get to today, so it has to
Okay.
be laser focused on what happened on September 24th.
Okay. On September 24th, when I came to pick up Christina, you said you was on the back deck.
Yeah.
So how far was the deck from my car?
25 meters?
And you were standing, is the deck above the car or is it low? Do you have a high deck or a low deck?
High deck, there's stairs leading up to the deck, and I can see down onto the drive. It's high.
Okay. And did you observe what took place between Kathy and Omar in terms of what he said to her verbally? Did you hear?
Honestly, I didn't hear very much. I just heard when Kathy began yelling up to me on top of the deck.
And what did Kathy yell to you on top of the deck?
That she knows secrets about Omar, and she was putting her hand up to her face like this, saying, "Call me, girl, call me. I've got all of his secrets." That's all I recall her saying to me.
And you don't recall anything else?
I don't. I was just in shock. I was just in shock that you guys were arguing on my back driveway.
But you couldn't hear what your husband, Omar, was saying, but you could hear what Kathy was saying.
When she began yelling up to me, I heard what she was saying, but I didn't hear what she was saying to Omar.
But you did not hear Omar because when he was yelling, you couldn't hear him.
No.
Did you observe Omar put his hand on top of Kathy's head?
No.
Did you observe Omar take his index finger and push Kathy, almost poking her in her eye?
No.
Have you ever met Miss Coote?
Kathy Cook.
Ex?
To speak to, no, I see her when we do drop-offs and pickups with Christina, but I've never had a face-to-face conversation. No.
Your Honor, that's all I have for Miss Coote.
Okay, so Mrs. Coote, we're going to place you back in a private meeting room. Please make sure you do not listen to any of the other testimony, and we'll call you back in if we should need you, but we're going to place you back in that private room right now.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh, well, actually, hold on one second. Counsel, do you have any follow-up questions for her?
No, Your Honor, I appreciate it. One request, if I could have 60 seconds in a breakout room with my client, I would be grateful.
Okay, Madam Clerk, are you able to put him and Mr. Coote in a breakout room for a few moments?
Yes, Judge, I can work something out. One moment.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I have a redirect for Christina Coote. Question.
Okay, well, hold on one second. We're not going to be at that point yet. Okay, counsel, I see that you've returned. Were you ready to move forward?
Yes, Your Honor, we're going to call Mr. Omar Coote.
Okay, so Mr. Coote, you are aware again that this is a criminal hearing and anything that you say can and possibly will be used against you in a court of law should you decide to testify later?
Yes. Yes, Your
Okay,
Honor.
so I'm going to swear you in then, and then we'll get your testimony. So do you swear and affirm the testimony you give is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury?
Yes, Your Honor.
And state your name for the record.
Omar Coote.
Okay, thank you, sir. Your attorney's going to ask you some questions, and then Ms. Coote will be able to ask you questions after that. So again, counsel, you can go ahead and begin. Thank you.
Your Honor. Mr. Coote, good afternoon. What is your relationship to the petitioner, Kathy Coote?
She's my ex-wife.
Okay. On September 24th, 2023, around 6:30 p.m., do you recall where you were?
Yes, sir.
Where were you, sir?
I was at home with my daughter, both my daughters and my wife.
Your wife. And your wife's name, sir?
Carrie Coote,
All right. And your daughters?
Christina Coote, and Candace Coote.
How old is Candace?
Candace is 2 years old, 2.5.
And Christina?
She's 15.
All right. Did you happen to run into your ex-wife, Miss Kathy Coote, that day?
Yes.
What are the circumstances?
She came to pick up my daughter.
And when she came around 6:30, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And how did you know that she was coming?
She said she was coming to pick up my daughter.
And how did she say? Did she call you? Did she text you?
We were on the phone, and then she said she's going to pick up my daughter. She's going to come and get her.
Okay. All right. So after the phone call, what happened after that?
She came up the driveway to pick up Christina.
All right. And when did you see her? What were you doing?
When she came up to the driveway, we were on the deck, just waiting, and she drove up.
All right. When she drove up, well, what did you do?
I got Christina's bag, and I walked Christina down the step and put the bag in the trunk, and then Christina in the passenger side of the vehicle.
Okay. And had you spoken with Kathy Coote at that point?
She came up to the driveway just yelling and screaming at me, then yelling at my wife and saying witches and warlocks, and so I just went back to the deck and tried to Google to find out what she was talking about. So
I'm sorry, Mr. Coote. When you were walking out of your house, you saw Kathy Coote rather, up your driveway. You're carrying your daughter's luggage, is that right? To the
yes,
car?
sir.
Is that when she gets out of the car and yells at you?
After I put the bag in the vehicle and Christina in the car, she started to yell and scream.
Okay. And then what did you do?
I walked back up to the deck, and we were just sitting there trying to Google what she was saying and trying to figure out if we could make sense of what she was saying.
What was she saying?
Witches and warlocks and for my wife to call her because she knows all my secrets and stuff like that. So
Okay. Did your wife, did Carrie say anything in response to that?
no, she did not.
Now, what did you do after she was gone?
She stood in the driveway for a few minutes, and basically Christina came back up after a while, and she was just sitting in the driveway
Sitting in the driveway in her vehicle? Or,
in her vehicle.
okay. Doing what?
I have no idea what she was doing.
Was Christina in the car with her?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what did you do?
We were on the deck, and that's it.
Did you call the police?
After about 10 minutes, I called the police just to get her to move. I was supposed to go to my mom to have dinner that night, and she blocked us, so we couldn't move. So I just called the police.
Okay. And she blocked you. How did she block you?
Her car was behind both her vehicles.
In your driveway.
Yes, sir.
And so you're saying about 10 minutes after your daughter in the car, she was still in your driveway blocking your vehicles?
Yes, sir.
And that's when you called the police.
Yes, sir.
And did the police come out and speak to you?
Yes, sir.
All right. What happened?
They spoke to me first, and they spoke to Kathy, and they gave us a police report.
Okay. Did he issue an arrest warrant?
No, sir.
Did he take any photographs?
Did the officer take any photographs?
Your knowledge, did he take any photographs of Mrs. Scoot?
I'm not quite sure. She was at the bottom of the driveway at that time, so I don't know what they did.
All right. And is there anything else that you wanted to add from that evening?
No, the only thing is my daughter came back up the driveway by herself.
At when?
About the police was getting ready to leave at that point when my daughter came back up and said she forgot something inside the house.
Okay. And did she go inside the house and retrieve something?
Yes, she did. I said, well, go ahead and get it. And when she came back, she was being real friendly with my wife. And she gave her a copy of my ex-wife business card and gave that to my wife, and just basically asking my wife to call her. So she sent my daughter Christina with her business card to deliver to my current wife.
And what did you do with that business card?
We ripped it up. My wife gave it to me, and I'm like, oh, this is why Christina was being so friendly. Her mom sent her to give us, get in touch with her. So we just ripped the card up. We didn't even bother telling the officer. We just ripped it up in the driveway.
So to you as her father, it was clear to you that whatever Christina had done, she was put up to, her mother put her up to it.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Thank you. No further questions.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Kathy Coote. You can go ahead and ask questions at this point if you have questions for him.
I do. Good afternoon, Mr. Coote.
Good afternoon.
On September 24th, 2023, when I came to pick up Christina, who called me?
I'm not quite sure of your question. Who called you? I'm not quite sure.
Before I came to pick up Christina, who called me?
Meaning, who called you in terms of what?
You said earlier that your attorney asked who called because a conversation was had. So who called me prior to me picking up Christina?
I think I called you because Christina asked me to call you.
Okay. So you called me. I didn't call you, correct?
I'm not quite sure. I can't recall it. Christina asked me to call you from her phone, and you were already on the phone. Or you were on the phone with Christina, and she asked me to speak to you. Yes.
Okay, so when I arrived to pick up Christina, and you came down the stairs from the deck to bring her luggage, you asked me to do what?
I'm not quite sure what I asked you to do. I think after Christina was in the car, I asked you to leave the driveway.
When you came down the stairs with her luggage, how did the luggage get in the car?
I put the luggage in the car, I believe.
What type of car was Miss Coote driving that day?
You're saying Miss Coote and
Kathy Coote.
you? Okay.
What type of car was Kathy Coote driving that day?
I think it's a Mercedes, I believe. A two-door Mercedes?
Two-door Mercedes.
Yes, ma'am.
So if it's a two-door Mercedes, how did the luggage get inside the car?
I think you opened the trunk or opened the passenger side. I'm not quite sure.
You don't remember where you put the luggage?
No, ma'am, I know I put the luggage in the car and then Christina in the passenger side of the vehicle.
So when you asked Miss Coop to pop the trunk of the car, what did Miss Coop tell you?
I'm not quite sure.
Did Miss Coop tell you that you couldn't put the luggage in the trunk because the trunk was full?
I can't recall the conversation.
At that point, did Miss Coop exit the car, open the car door so she could let the seat back in order to put the luggage in the back seat?
I can't recall, to be honest with you.
When Miss Coop exited the car and put the luggage in the back seat, what did you say to Miss Coop?
I can't recall what I said to you. I just asked you to leave the driveway
Why would you ask Miss Coop to leave the driveway?
because my daughter was already in the vehicle and I just wanted you to leave so I can go see my mom and have dinner.
You stated in the police report that you did not hit Miss Coop.
Never have.
Is that
That's
correct?
correct. Yes, ma'am, never have.
Why would you state that you did not hit Miss Coop?
Because
If you-
I never
If you
had.
simply ask, I'm sorry, if you simply asked Miss Coop to leave after you put the luggage in the car, why would you tell the police that you didn't hit Miss Coop?
They asked me, did I hit you? And I told them, no, I did not. And they wrote a police report and they confirmed what I said, what I stated.
Why did you call the police, Mr. Coop?
I think I just didn't want it to be your words against my words. And I wanted to make sure everything was documented just to protect myself. And that was the main reason. I knew it may lead to something else, and I just wanted to be sure I had an officer on the scene and to make sure that she left my driveway and there was no further issues.
And why would you call the police if Miss Coop simply got out of her car, or you, according to you, she didn't get out of her car, she was just sitting in your driveway? Why would you call the police if you said you went up to the deck and you and your wife was looking up witches and warlocks?
Because you were still sitting in the driveway and I wanted to go have dinner with my mom and you were still blocking both vehicles. After 10 minutes, I said, let me just call the police because I don't want any issues. And I just wanted everything to be documented so I can protect myself and my family.
So in other words, Mr. Coop, you're saying that your daughter and your ex-wife lied and said you put your hands on top of her head and tried to shove her in the car?
I think the police report speaks for itself.
Well, according to the police report, it states that my daughter corroborated my story where I said you put your hands on top of my head and tried to force me into my car and then poke me with your index finger near my eye.
Okay, that's
So you're
false.
saying the police report is, you're saying that's false. So you're
Yes,
saying
ma'am.
that your daughter lied.
Yes, ma'am. And the police report speaks for itself. I did nothing to you and I never have.
In the beginning of the marriage, Omar, did Miss Coop call the police on you at least 4 times?
Yes, you did. And each time the police came out, nothing. There was no cause for arrest because I never put my hand on a woman before and I never will.
During those times, did the police ask you to leave the property, Mr. Coop?
Yes, ma'am, they sure did. They just said, wait until you calm down and I can return. They said, just go ahead, leave. And maybe when you calm down, I can come back. And that's what I took their advice.
Mr. Coop, you said that Miss Coop drove down to the bottom of the driveway. At what point did she drive down to the bottom of the driveway?
After about 10 minutes, You went down to the bottom of the driveway and you sat there for a few minutes, or until at least the police got there.
So you weren't able to move your car after Miss Coot went to the bottom of the driveway? And was she on your property? Was
At
Miss Coot
that-
on your property?
Yes,
She was still on your property.
yes,
The barbershop that's down at the bottom of the hill is still your property.
you are still on my property. There's a long driveway and there's an easement that goes up between the two properties. So technically, you are still on my property.
If Miss Coot's car was parked in the driveway of the barbershop, was she still on your property?
I guess technically, no.
Thank you. You indicated that Miss Coot said something about witches and warlocks. Why would she say something about witches and warlocks?
I have no idea.
Did she say that your stepfather was a pedophile? Is that what she was telling your ex-wife?
Objection. This is inappropriate. We're not going to defend against this.
What is, was this what was said at the time?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, I'll allow it if she's alleging that this is what was said prior to the physical altercation. You can repeat your question.
Mr. Coot, did Miss Coot state to your wife that your stepfather was a pedophile?
I have no idea what you stated to her.
But you just said that I said something about witches and warlocks.
Yes, you did say that, yes. And my daughter, Christina,
What is it, Mr. Coot? You said you don't know what I said, but on one hand, you say I said witches and warlocks, but then you say you don't know what I said.
a part of what you said was witches and warlocks. My daughter, Christina, heard you and said to me, Dad, you're not a warlock. Dad, you're not a warlock. And so my daughter was telling me this after you stated it.
After Miss Coot stated that your stepfather was a pedophile, Mr. Coot, what did you do?
I have no idea, nothing at all. That wouldn't be the first time you stated that. So I absolutely did nothing at all.
Mr. Coot, did you leave a letter from your stepfather confessing to being a pedophile? And
Okay,
Mrs.
so I don't
Coot,
know that that's going to be relevant. So again, anything that was said or done on September 24th, I'll hear about that. But again, it needs to be focused on what was said or done on September 24th.
okay. On September 24th, Mr. Coot, did you, when you brought the suitcase down and Miss Coot exited her car to let the seat back so that the luggage could go in the back seat, did you begin cursing Miss Coot out, calling her bitch, and that you would slap the shit out of her?
I don't recall. I don't recall that. I asked you to leave the premises and go home. And I did not put my hands on you.
Mr. Coot, did you say to Kathy Coot that that she killed her father? Did you say that to her?
I can't recall what I stated that day. All I know is I asked you to leave my driveway because we were just wanted to move on, and that's it.
Did you tell Miss Coot that you would slap the shit out of her multiple times, and your
No.
wife screaming at the top of her lungs, telling you, no, Omar, stop, Omar, don't do it?
No, ma'am. I think that's your imagination.
Your Honor, I have no further questions of Mr. Coot.
Okay. All right, counsel, do you have any redirects?
Thank you, Judge. Defense rests.
Right, so I do have one or two questions. My only question would be, sir, you don't recall why she was refusing to leave the driveway? She didn't say why she was refusing to leave?
No, Your Honor. I can't recall why she was refusing. I had no idea. It was just basically trying to start a fight, and I just tried to avoid it the best that I could.
Okay, anyone, so do you have any follow-up, counsel, based on my one question?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
All right, so Mrs. Coote, you said you wanted to recall your daughter.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, you can go retrieve her and have her come back in, and we
Thank you.
will,
It'll
can,
be brief, Your Honor.
that's fine.
We're back, Your Honor.
All right, so you can just get in the screen as well. And
Can you
then
see
you
me,
can
Your
ask,
Honor?
yes, I can. What is your follow-up questions? You can go in and ask your follow-up questions.
Christina, on the day of September 24th, 2023, the day that this incident took place, did you hear Gary Coote say anything to Omar Coote?
Yes, ma'am. I heard Miss Carrie Coote say, you know, no Omar, no Omar, no Omar, no Omar, stop. Well, not stop, but just no Omar.
So that's what you recall
Hearing.
hearing.
Yes, ma'am.
When Omar came down the stairs with the luggage, and what did he ask your mother to do? Do you recall?
No, ma'am, I do not.
Did your mother at any time when he came down the stairs with the luggage, did she get out of the car?
I can't remember that either.
You don't recall when your mother got out of the car?
Well, I recall my mama got out the car when I came downstairs and toward her vehicle.
Okay. Do you recall what Mr. Coote was saying to your mother?
Yes, ma'am. He was in a fit of fury and rage, saying basically that he was gotta beat my mother's ASS and attempted to raise his hand and but it seemed as though he was about to slap my mom, but he didn't.
Did Mr. Coote at any time during the incident say that he was getting ready or he could not leave his home to go to his mother's house?
I can't remember that.
After your mother called the police, what did she do?
She, me and her waited inside her car, and we waited for the police to come. Then,
Did she move her car?
yes, ma'am.
Where did she move her car?
She moved her car down. Well, when the police came, she moved her car down the barber shop.
Was that before the police came?
That was before.
So your mother moved her car before the police got there?
Yes.
About how long after your mother called the police did she move her car? Do you remember?
No, ma'am.
Was it a long time or a short time
It was a long period.
before she moved her car?
I believe so. I would say I couldn't recall.
But after she called the police, she moved her car, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That's all I have for her, Your Honor.
Okay, any cross from the defense or from, yes, defense counsel?
Were you reading off that piece of paper when you were answering those questions?
No, sir.
What do you have in front of you?
I don't really know
Pick it
what
up
it
and
is.
show it to him.
Okay.
Turn around.
Okay.
Just turn around.
Just this paper right here.
All right. Let me ask you, before today, did you practice what you were going to say today?
No, sir.
You didn't? You never spoke about it with your mom?
We spoke about it, but I just recall the events in my head, what happened, what took place.
Okay. So before tonight, you and your mom never discussed anything that happened.
Right.
She didn't prepare you for this hearing?
No, sir. She didn't repair this. She didn't repair me for this hearing.
All right, no further questions. Thank you.
I only have one or two questions. Christina, when is the last time that you went over to your dad's house?
Just today when the incident happened. That
And
was
have
the-
you, go ahead,
As I was saying, that was the last day.
have you spoken to him since that occurred?
I mean, he's tried calling me, and he's tried texting me also. There was an instance where I was allowed to speak to him. I can't remember when that was, but he was at my grandmother's house with him and Carrie and my little baby sister, and I had talked to him via WhatsApp. And that was really the last time, that was the last time when I was like allowed then, and then when
Would you, let me ask this, would you like to be able to see your father, or would you rather not have to go back over to the house?
I would love to see my father more than anything. I miss my baby sister so much.
Would you want to see your baby sister and your dad, or would you want to just see your baby sister if there was a way to see her without having to go over to the house?
I would love to see both.
Your Honor, I believe she said, I would love to see my father. That was pretty clear.
I said I would love to see both.
Right.
And let me ask one last question for you. Do you have any idea, has anyone told you anything about when you might be able to see either of them again?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and that makes you sad?
Yes, ma'am, deeply.
Okay, I'm gonna let the attorney ask a few more questions if he has any, and then I'll let your mom ask a few more questions, and then I'll be done, okay?
Yes.
Christina, just a couple questions. Who decides whether or not you're allowed to speak with your father?
Well, I believe for the judge right now, when this didn't happen, I was free to speak to him whenever.
I'm sorry, who told you you couldn't speak to your father?
Well, for right now, my mom told me I wasn't allowed to speak to him, but back then when this never occurred, I was allowed to speak to him whenever.
Okay. But your mom says you're not allowed to speak with him, but then she lets you speak with him at a family event, right?
No, sir.
Oh, you text him briefly. I think it was WhatsApp. Is that right?
Yes, sir. That was back then when none of this started.
That's when your mom allowed you to speak to your father.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so now your mom won't allow you to speak to him. Is that right?
Well, I'm not allowed to. Yes. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Coote, do you have any questions for her?
Yes, Your Honor.
You can go ahead.
Christina, does your mother have a protective order against your father?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that the reason why you're not allowed to speak with your father?
Yes, ma'am.
When one of the protective orders was dismissed, did your mother allow you to call your father and speak to him?
Yes, ma'am.
And after the order was put back in place, did your mother tell you that there's a protective order and you can't speak to him at that point?
Yes,
Your Honor,
ma'am.
objection. This is all leading, and there's no evidence of an order, a TPO, a permanent PPO, none of that. I object to that entire line of questioning.
I have
What
What I
evidence.
would, let me do this.
I have evidence of a TPO. Your
Hold
Honor.
on
That's
one
okay.
second. Well, let's not talk over me because that's going to be a very quick way for all parties to not be in a good place.
Sorry, Your Honor.
No, that's okay. What I would like to do is do a voir dire by myself with Christina. So mom, if you don't mind going into another area in the house where you can't see or hear what's going on, I'm going to put her in an electronic room where it's just me and her and it's not being recorded, just so I can talk to her. So if you don't mind just going out somewhere where you can't hear what's going on. And Madam Clerk, can you place me and Christina in a private breakout? Okay, so Ms. Coote, I see that you're back. Okay, so Ms. Coote, I have a couple of things.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. So again, you can tell me no. Obviously, it's within your purview to do that. But what I always do in cases like this, I started off with family law, right? Whenever my first legal job back whenever the 1990 somethings, right, was with a firm that did mostly family law. And so what I've always found with cases like this, where the witness is a child, there is a taxing on that child. So again, I don't go into guilt or innocence whenever I talk to them. I just try to get a view of whether or not I think that they're believable and they understand what's going on and what their feelings are. And so without, of course, revealing anything that, was said in confidence with her, you both did an amazing job, because she's obviously brilliant and she's obviously kind, and she obviously cares deeply about both of you and loves both of you. And so again, I cannot require that you talk to one another to see if there's anything that can be done that would not require her to have to come back and testify multiple times in front of multiple different people, some of whom will not have the bedside banner, let's call it, that I would have with her. But if y'all are able to talk and see if there's anything that can be done, whether that's payment of medical bills, agreements to stay away and not communicate with one another, I would like for you guys, if you don't mind, to try one last time to talk with all parties involved, and maybe with just keeping her at the forefront. Again, everybody has a right to do whatever they want to do, and I'm not going to, it's not going to sway my decision-making one way or the other based on what the outcome is. But I just believe, and I know both of you obviously, because I've been reading your facial expressions and body language this entire time, especially whenever she's around. So again, from what she tells me and from what I can see visibly from both of you and from my 25 years of being immersed in this type of world, I know both of you love her dearly. And I know both of you care about her well-being above all. So what I would ask is that you try to talk to one another to see if there's anything that can or cannot be done. And Ms. Coots, if you don't mind, if you would be able to let the attorney know, because I don't know the status of the TPOs or permanent restraining orders, whatever it may be, if you can just let him know that, so we can know if there's even any type of workaround with those that would allow communication that does not involve you, or visitation maybe that does not involve you, so that you don't have to be put in harm's way anymore. And Ms. Coote, let me ask this: would you prefer to talk to the attorney without Mr. Coote present, or are you fine with Mr. Coote being present?
I'm fine with Mr. Coote being present. It doesn't matter, Your Honor.
Okay, perfect. So if you guys will,
I just wanted to say my child's well-being and safety has been my concern always.
Now, I know both of you do that. And again, I let her know that, because again, I can tell from both of you that you do care about her. But again, I've done these types of cases for forever. And I know that in spite of us having incredible love, undying, go into the fire type love for our children, that situations can come into play, that there are two variables, right? Like, you have to weigh your safety and you also have to weigh her best interest. And I understand that. So again, by no means am I suggesting what you ought to do and what you ought to agree to. I'm just saying, based on what I've been able to tell of her, again, I'm not the family judge in this case, but I don't think that she would be in danger from her father. I could be wrong, but I don't get that sense. And I also get the sense that she loves both of you, and she would be happier in a world where she gets to have access to the two of you. So if there's any way that can happen, that doesn't put your safety at risk, because again, your safety is paramount and important too, I would just like for you guys to talk to see if there's anything that can be done. And again, like I said, what we typically will do is there can be agreements where someone agrees to stay away, or someone agrees not to call, someone agrees not to have any communication whatsoever, someone agrees to go to a police station every time that they want to pick up a child, or even not even being able to pick the child up themselves, having to send a family member or a representative to come get the child for them, so that there's never any type of communication. Getting the child a cell phone so that there's no contact with a main number, allowing there to be specific hours, like between the hours of 5 p.m. and 9 p.m., that a cell phone that only belongs to the child can be contacted. Again, there are a million.
She has her own cell phone, Your Honor.
Perfect. And so there are workarounds, as long as there isn't a protective order that a different judge signed that says that they can't be. Otherwise, I can't alter some other judge's order. They would be the only one that could alter their order. That's why I said I would like for you to talk about whatever order's in place with the attorney. But if there's any type of resolution that possibly might involve her not having to testify again, and also you getting the protection that you need, again, I can't tell you what to do, and I'm not necessarily telling you that you should or shouldn't do it. I'm just saying I would like for you guys to talk at least one more time with all of that information in mind or whatnot.
Okay. And,
So-
and yes, Your Honor, there's a lot more to this case than
Oh, I
what
know
you're
that.
being
And
made aware of.
there's no way, and this is the thing too, Ms. Coote.
And she loves her dad, and I've never
I know
done
that.
anything to discourage that.
And Ms. Coote, the only thing is that I always tell people again, a court, it doesn't matter how many hours you're in court, it doesn't matter how many weeks you're in court before a family judge, right?
Mhm.
They never will be able to get the full story, right? That's never going to happen. Also, just as true is that a child doesn't get to choose their parents, right? My experience has been even with children that I've dealt with that were crack addicted. Their mothers were on crack whenever they had them. Their mothers prostituted them. Their mothers put them on the corner. Those children always still wanted to have some type of contact with their birth moms, right? Like maybe
Absolutely.
one out of every 50 might say, no, I don't want to have contact. But the others, no matter how depraved I thought the parent was, for some reason, that child still had a longing for that other parent, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So again, when I tell you, I'm not saying, I think I started off and I wanted to start off that saying that I know that you put her interest first. I know that you're a good mother. I know that he tries to be a good father, right? I know this. But I also know that it's a heavy burden on any child to be in the position where they feel like they're going to be the causal factor in something occurring or not occurring. And so if there is anything that protects your safety and protects her safety and gets you whatever justice you feel like you need, whatever security you think that you need, if there's any scenario in which that can occur, just let me know. And I just want to make sure that y'all have time to talk about that while I take care of some of the other matters,
Okay.
just based on what I was able to discuss. If y'all would just amuse me that way, just to talk one last time to see if there's anything.
Absolutely. I can agree to that, Your Honor.
Okay, so I appreciate you immensely. Thank you so much. And again, like Ms. Coote, I know that you're a great mom.
Thank
And
you.
again, a child doesn't turn out that great without having great parents. So again, she didn't come out of a vacuum. So she couldn't be that gifted, that talented, that funny, that kind, that intuitive without having a good parent, right?
Yes. Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so I'm going to put you guys back in a breakout room. Just press accept or join for all three of you to go into that breakout room. And then
Okay.
I will get back with you guys once you're done. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor.
Was there a
Thank you.
resolution of any sorts?
There was,
Oh,
Your Honor.
perfect. Okay, do you want to go ahead and put that resolution on the record for me?
Yes, whenever Your Honor's ready.
I'm ready.
Two conditions. The first, Mrs. Coote has filed a TPO against Mr. Coote, and I have the case number. She has, I guess, attempted service. Mr. Coote, he's not running from service, and of course, whenever the sheriff comes by his residence, he will more than willing to accept service in the TPO. We are aware of the TPO. We're going to abide by the conditions of the TPO since we are aware of it. And whenever service comes by, Mr. Coote will obviously accept it. The second condition that we've agreed to is that Mrs. Coote has incurred $712.88 in out-of-pocket medical expenses. Mr. Coote has agreed to compensate her for those.
That was $712.88.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay, and let me make sure I understand properly. There was a petition for a protective order. However, that protective order has not yet been served.
Correct.
There
Okay.
have been 3 petitions, Your Honor, and all haven't been served.
The
On
one that is
October-
current, does it have, because again, I've done protective orders as well. Does it have a provision checked off on it where it says that he's not to have any contact with the minor children as well on that one?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and you're asking that he still abides by that right now?
Currently, because this TPO, we're supposed to go to court on December the 14th at 9 a.m. And
Okay.
I asked that he,
At least honor it
invoke
until
service.
December 14th
I
at night.
yes, Your Honor. And I asked that he invoke service, go to the sheriff's department so that they can serve him because he's avoiding service. He is. And the $700 out of pocket for the injuries that I have sustained is not sufficient in terms of monetary. I gave him what the cost of my medical expenses have been. They were over $15,000. And I will be having future medical. I have a radio frequency ablation that's scheduled on Wednesday. That's where they go in and burn the nerves.
Okay, so Ms. Coote, I guess my question would be, are you, are your out-of-pocket expenses right now more than 712? Are you saying the out-of-pocket that you have to pay is the 15,000 or the out-of-pocket is the 712?
The out of pocket right now is 712, but when we added up what the actual cost of the services, medical services were, they were over $15,000. And so
But you did not have to pay 15,000, your insurance had to pay
my
15,000.
insurance paid it. And I don't know
So
if
your
I received-
insurance would be the one that would come after him for that if they felt as if they should come after him. Because technically, even if this was a civil lawsuit and someone comes with that amount and they don't really actually have expenses in that amount, I don't know that anyone would be able to award you that amount, right? So it's but you're saying the insurance company would be able to subrogate, and if you did. So if, let's say, I gave you 15,000, I don't have the jurisdiction to do that, even if it was, well, I guess that's the top of our jurisdiction is 15,000 in the civil division of magistrate court. But even if someone were to do that, then the insurance company would subrogate, which means they come back and say, well, this is actually money we paid out. So it wouldn't be something that would go into your pocket. So the question would be, because the insurance company is never going to ask you for that 15,000, I'm assuming that what you have to pay is the 700.
That's what I've paid out of pocket as of
Perfect.
date.
And he's
But
going to
I
pay
will-
you that 700. And then I'm assuming what he's going to do is pay whatever additional out-of-pocket expenses you might have as they come up. But since the only ones we know of for sure right now are the 712, he's paying what we know for certain are due.
Correct. And Your Honor, that's not even including pain and suffering, what I'm having to go through. I mean,
So you can always still pursue pain and suffering, right? But this is where I guess I was trying to go with everything. There are a couple of concerns. Obviously, you want to be made whole, right?
Yes, sir.
Civil lawsuit, civil liability is completely different than criminal liability.
Okay.
The civil lawsuit, your daughter is not potentially putting her father, in harm as far as jail or anything like that, right? A civil
Right.
lawsuit simply means someone pays money. And that nothing from this precludes you from being able to pursue, civil if he should not pay, what you feel as if you're owed. But right now, what it sounds like is y'all are agreeing to make an agreement as long as he pays the current expenses that you're actually having to physically fork over. And then he's agreeing to just allow himself to be served and show up for the hearing on December 14th. Is that what it sounds like y'all are agreeing to do?
And pay future expenses.
Pay future expenses. Well, the
Yes.
only thing with that is, and I'm sure he's going to agree to do that, but those are going to have the expenses that you show him and show his attorney, because that could be, who knows how much that is.
Yes.
So
Well,
that would
Judge,
be something.
that's not whether or not he pays that, that's fine. I don't know that we can order that today. I mean, that would be,
Well, I can't. That's what I have it, counsel. I think I was
oh, sorry.
discussing. Thank you.
Pardon.
So I can order a dollar amount, but I can't necessarily in a order. I would have to keep a case open. If I don't have a specific amount, I can't just say that someone's supposed to pay whatever comes due, because that's a speculative, and then that doesn't necessarily have teeth. So I can say he has to pay the $712.88, and he needs to pay it by whatever date that you believe he needs to pay it by. And that is the parameter that this is being done on. But I can't just have something that's, I don't know when it's going to occur in the future and what that amount is going to be in the future, right? If that makes any sense.
Yes, you said something about keeping the case open.
So and I don't keep cases open. That's what I was saying. So if you were saying
Okay.
that you're supposed to pay and then you don't know, and as soon as you know, you'll let us know, I wouldn't be able to keep it open for that type of time to do something like that. I like to close it out or send it on to the prosecutor. So if I'm going to close it, I'm going to close it with a caveat that if he doesn't do this, then the case can be revived. But I have to give him the specific parameters for what he needs to do in order for me to close it. And then again, it's with the understanding that it was only being closed because he's agreeing to do this. So he's agreeing to not obstruct service, and he's agreeing that he understands and will be appearing, it seems his attorney is saying they're going to appear in the December 14th hearing. And then it also appears he's going to pay the $712.88.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. As far as I have no idea about the December 12th hearing. What we agreed to was to accept service. So, whatever the document is, I'm not sure what the conditions, the dates. I can't agree. I don't know.
I'm telling you that it's the court date. Once he accepts, it's December the 14th at 9 a.m. It's on the TPO. And I think I included that as evidence as well.
Okay, say, Counselor, you were going to acknowledge that you know that the date is December 14th and that he will not obstruct the sheriff being able to serve him.
Judge, I'd have to look at the TPO. I would if I saw it and verified it, but what I can 100% tell the court is that Mr. Coote will accept service as soon as the sheriff comes by and visits him. But I'd have to look at the order before I agree to the terms.
They've been by
I don't think
several
she's asking you
times.
to agree to the terms. I think she's just saying that they told her the court date is going to be December 14th.
I acknowledge that's what she's saying.
Okay.
Right.
Well, you
Would
can
it be-
look up, you can look up
Hold
the
on,
TPO.
y'all,
I'm
don't,
sorry.
don't talk over me. Are you, would you be appearing with him on the 14th, or would y'all, do you think you'd be hiring someone else for the hearing on the 14th? Would you only appear if there's service perfected by the 14th?
I'd have to discuss that with my client. I'm just,
So
we're
just
just
based
learning about all this, I guess.
it sounds
But
like
he will accept service. He was never obstructed. As far as what I'm going to advise him to do, Judge, I don't know. I have to look at the document. I have to see what's going on. If I need more time, I might ask the court for
Okay.
continuance. I just don't want to promise the court.
that has nothing to do with whether or not there's a hearing on the 14th scheduled on the paperwork and either appearing or not appearing, I guess, on that date. That's what I'm a little confused about.
We will accept service. I
Okay.
guess I'm not quite sure what other guarantees we can give. Is that?
Okay. So Ms. Cooch, it sounds like what he is indicating is that they will accept service whenever the sheriff comes by to serve them. Was that going to be sufficient for you then? Again, if the
No.
service. Okay.
No, Your Honor, because the sheriff has been by his house several times to serve him, and he's not answering the door. So I asked the attorney for him to go down. The judge told me that these TPOs are public record. He can look it up. He knows that he has a TPO, and he already knew he had a TPO when I had the second TPO. And because I asked the police officer to serve him.
So are you asking him? So y'all are getting into a whole bunch of facts. And remember, I said I don't have the time to go into all the facts. Are you asking that he accept service? Or are you asking that he go and sign for service at the court?
I'm asking that he go and sign for service, or he can appear at court on the 14th and accept service. Then the judge will ask him if he wanted to accept service when he appears at court. But
okay. So counsel, I think what she's asking is that he accepts some type of service. Ms. Coote, you can let the sheriff know that he does live at that current address. It sounds like
they know.
Ms. Coote, just listen.
I'm sorry.
You can let the sheriff know that he lives at that address and that he's agreed if they should come by, he will accept, and the sheriff might have the ability to go by and serve it. But counsel, it sounds like she's asking that if he cannot be served, that he appear and accept service at whatever time is scheduled on the TPO for the court hearing, even if the sheriff is not able to serve them. So it doesn't sound like she's asking for the sheriff to be able to serve them. Sounds like she's asking that he either be available for the sheriff to serve him, and even if not, he accept service and acknowledge service by the hearing date at latest.
Okay.
Do you need to talk with him again about that before you make a decision?
I don't want to presume, sorry.
Okay, so Mr. Coote, let's do this. Are you able to call him? Or we can
I can, Judge.
Okay, so just give him a call, see what he says, and then we can come back on screen once you know that. And Mrs. Coote, let me ask one last question. Was there any type of provision as far as his ability to communicate with Christina?
No, we didn't talk about that. We just talked about him accepting service and going through the TPO because she is a part of the TPO. She's included in the TPO. And so I wanted that decision to be made by the judge. And she also talked to the judge like she did with you. And they can make a decision based on that. I'm not trying to keep Christine away from her father. I've indicated that she loves her father and she wants to see him. And I will also tell the judge that as well, so that they can make an informed decision.
Okay. And is she, are you bringing her with you to that hearing, or she's not going to be there at that hearing?
Well, if the judge wants to speak with her, then I'll make her available.
Okay. You can let the judge know that Judge Neal handled the warrant application hearing and spoke intensively and extensively with her, and they can always give her a call to get information, I guess, about the case or about the child and what was stated. Mm-hmm. So you can do that. Both sides can do that or whatnot. We can just go from there. But that being stated, counsel, just give us come back on screen once you've had a chance to talk to your client to see if he actually consents to that.
Will do, Judge. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Counsel, I see that you're back on the other matter. Were y'all able to come to a decision?
Yes, Your Honor. I believe we heard December 14th. If that's the court date in the order, we will be appearing either by entry or in person, but we will appear for that date. And if service comes by before then, we will gladly accept it. But in any event, we will be there that day.
Okay, and I believe you just call the clerk's office. They should be able to give you that information about the date and the time. And
I'll get a
so,
copy of
perfect.
Thank you,
Okay.
Judge.
Okay, and so thank you all for reaching that agreement. I will put that in the order that I'll issue. And just again, if all parties can just make sure we keep Christina at the heart of everything, and safety and Christina, those be the two main concerns that we be looking after. Again, everyone have a wonderful night. Tell Christina I said good night. Thank you all for appearing and working that out.
Judge, we appreciate all your efforts.
And also,
One last
Yes.
question, Judge. The restitution 7/12/88. Logistically, how did Ms. Cook, how did she want us to?
Are you going to be able to get that by the December 14th day? Would you maybe, Ms. Coop, would you prefer a money order or Zelle or?
I don't know if it's virtual. So maybe if you could
virtual.
give me her address, or take my
How would you
email.
like to receive that, Ms.
Yeah,
Coop?
if she could take my email address and just send me however she wants me to send her the payment, we'll do that. It's
okay,
it's on the
it could,
paper.
it could be sent via Zelle or Cash App. And I'll
Okay.
provide you with the information.
Do
And
you have an
as far
address
as
that I can
the,
send it to?
I'm
So
sorry.
let me do this because y'all are on the internet. So what you can do, if you want to put it in the chat feature, Ms. Coop, for him, you can send him a direct chat with whatever telephone number or email address you want the Zelle payment to go to.
Okay.
And then we can do that. So if you want to just do that, and then as soon as you receive it, counsel, if you can just let us know that you received it, and then everybody will be free to go.
I'm sorry, Judge. We got to do it the old-fashioned way for record-keeping purposes. If I'll send her a trust check to her address certified, if that's okay. We don't really do Zelle.
Ms. Coop, you okay with that?
That's fine. I would just need to know when it's coming. I have a gate at my home, and so I
We
would.
could have 30 days to receive it, but I mean, there's no, we don't intend to delay it unnecessarily, but 30 days is reasonable.
Ms. Coop, are you okay with that, receiving it via certified mail within 30 days?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. And I'll just wait on your mailing address in the chat, Ms. Coop. Judge, thank you again.
Okay.